Australian made and owned, Hi-Tech Oils is one of the largest oil blenders in Australia with a truly national profile, supplying an extensive range of oils, coolant, grease, batteries and much more for all businesses and consumer needs. Choose Hi-Tech Oils for peace of mind.
Welcome to the nation's spectator track, Wakefield Park Raceway, for the opening round of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals, presented this weekend by Hi-Tech Oils. I'm Lachlan Mansell. Joining me in commentary is Gary O'Brien. Gary, always plenty of interesting storylines in the Super Truck paddock.
Yes, there certainly is, Lockie, and particularly the opening round where we've got everyone with new trucks or rebuilt their trucks. We've got more rounds coming up later in the year, obviously with two at Winton and one back here at Wakefield Park.
As Gary mentioned, plenty of activity in the off-season. Let's catch up with some of our Super Truck competitors, find out more of the news.
Yeah, pretty lucky and stoked and honoured actually to have a main drive, first main drive of my life actually. So Stever Zammit actually on the way to Thailand as we speak. So he asked me to fill in for him for the weekend, which is great. It is actually older than me, but been racing for about 30 years, 29, 30 years now. Originally as a W model, always owned by SRZ, Charlie Zammit. Now it changed to a 401 Kenworth, still got the same big Cam Cummins motor in it. The suspension's come a long way from when I was a kid. Steve and Charlie and myself developed that over the years. Yeah, it's been family heirloom for a long time now.
What we actually did, the boys decided it was about time the old girl had a bit of a refresh. It's getting up there at its time. So we've pulled it down to two bare chassis rails and it's just a cabin and engine, and we've rebuilt the whole lot, and it's going to come out probably 500-600 kilos lighter than what it was, and a lot better designed suspension system. So we hope to be able to have it up at the pointy end, but unfortunately the boys have been working flat out. They were working on it even on Thursday night when I brought the Barry's trucks up, and we should have it running. It'll be definitely a winter the next round.
Changed some fuel pressure and I lowered the compression a little bit. Suffered a broken crankshaft. At the end of last season, I came in with a wastegate issue. It was lucky I did because the crankshaft was about to break in half. I discovered. So yeah, it's a fresh motor. Hopefully it'll last a couple of seasons. The long straights, my truck's better in sort of mid-range. So the long straights here put me a little bit behind the 8 ball really, but probably next time I come I'll change the diff ratio and see if I can get a bit more road speed out of it.
Well, yesterday we were having some practice runs. I went a bit too hard, got a little bangled up with truck 31. I was going around. I went to go overtake him in the straight, and I went in front of him. He braked a bit too early. I braked early, and I smashed into the side of it. But we got it repaired thanks to Camel. Big help. Helped us fix it up. So we're out racing again today. Just finished up warm up. He said it went alright. He took it for a drive. But besides that, it's running really good. We put a new Watts link in it, and yeah, it's running pretty good actually.
We're pretty close. We had a few problems this weekend to start with, but we think we've got them sorted. I think at the end of the day, we're hoping to take it away, so we'll see how we go. It's good. It's got the corners in it. It's got a fast straight, which is gives you a bit of a challenge when there's a bit of traffic out there. It's hard to get around them.
We've had a few dramas with we broke a sway bar on Friday on practice, and we've got cooling issues. We've damaged the motor last year, so we've backed the power off sort of probably 20% or so, and sort of changed the driving style without the sway bar, but it's dry, so it's putting in our favour a little bit.
gearing up for race number 2 of the weekend for the Super Trucks. And Gary, plenty of intensity in race number 1 with the passing manoeuvre for the win on the very last corner of the last lap.
Shannon Smith getting past Stever Zammit at that point, and then we had Lockie Fern come in third spot. Barry Butwell, who we see on screen, had all sorts of dramas. They had some leaking diesel onto the rear wheels of that truck, and it just kept spinning out. So not a good start for him for the weekend.
Not a good start at all, especially when you consider that he was runner-up in the championship last year. Really needed to come out of this weekend with a good solid bundle of points to try and enhance his chances of contending for the title. Let's have a look at the grid positions heading into this second race of the weekend. Shannon Smith on pole ahead of Barry Butwell, and then it's Robbie Fern and Marcus Prilwitz on the second row of the grid.
Yeah, this is one where Butwell can really pick up some points, particularly now that Zammit's not running the rest of this meeting. This is the one where he can really assert his authority and maybe get that first championship in the bag.
Shannon Smith, though, just keeps improving, doesn't he? The ex-John Bomberley truck. Every race meeting that he does in that truck, he gets quicker and quicker. And as we saw in race number 1, where he went wheel to wheel with the 6-time champion Stever Zammit, very much capable of contending for outright race victories. Getting ourselves set for the rolling start. 6 laps the distance, race number 2 of the weekend. The Super Truck Nationals, presented by Hi-Tech Oils. Good start for Shannon Smith off pole position. He will take the lead into the first 2 quarters. Ahead of Barry Butwell, then it's Robbie Fern in the Volvo tucking into position number 3. Marcus Prilwitz, the second of the Max Superliners, trying to hang tough around the outside. And then Brett Dalgish, who, as we heard, has slotted into the Stever Zammit regular ride. The number 1, Kenworth, moving up into position 5.
Already moved well ahead of Tringali, who rounds out this small, compact field. Big crowd of punters here to look on, and certainly the racing lives up to its reputation every time they come out.
Great crowd flocking to Wakefield Park to enjoy not just the beautiful weather but also some action-packed truck racing. Having a look there on board with Marcus Prilwitz, and here's a lead challenge. Barry Butwell trying to go the long way round of Shannon Smith through turn number 8, the fish hook. If he can go the long way round, he'll be on the inside for the next corner at turn 9, and he's pulled it off. What a move from Barry Butwell.
There's not much room out there. The track's only so wide, and trucks take up a fair bit of it, don't they?
It's hard enough to go round the outside in a normal-sized race car. Barry Butwell's just pulled off the biggest outside overtaking manoeuvre you could imagine in a massive super truck.
Yeah, and there's a couple of sliders out that last corner too, I noticed, but you can see Smith now moving in on the back of Butwell as they go down through turn 1 to start the second lap, and just not enough straight for him to make too much of an advantage. They're on the slide going through. Cold tyres, of course, so early in the day.
You will say that the different trucks do have strengths and weaknesses in different parts of the racetrack. The Kenworths do seem to be very good in terms of low-end torque and punch out of the slower corners, whereas the Kenworths, the Max Superliners, their advantage is through the corners, so they're a little bit more nimble. Here's a replay of that move from Barry Butwell on the opening lap.
Wow, you've got it all sorts of screwed up getting into the corner to start with. A little bit of rub out of the corner, runs him as far as he can off the side of the track, but keeps it most of the wheels on the bitumen for most of it, and there he goes, slips right through there at turn 9, heading up towards turn 10.
Shannon Smith didn't give him a lot of room, and Barry Butwell had 2 wheels, or actually technically 3 wheels off to the edge of the racetrack, but kept the boot into it. Barry Butwell full of confidence in the handling of that Max Superliner, and he was able to squeeze through into the race lead.
You can see the commitment. He was not going to back out of that under any circumstances, and that's where he got the move done.
Thanks to All Freight for bringing us those replays with some spectacular camera angles. Here's Barry Butwell in the lead, Shannon Smith right on his tail, who is doing a very good job. Robbie Fern bought this Volvo truck a couple of years ago from John Thorpe, an ex-Super Truck champion. And again, he's been learning, he's been coming to grips with it, but he's looking more and more competitive as well. As we say that Shannon Smith wants the lead back, has a look to the outside of Barry Butwell as they head up the hill.
Yeah, he doesn't mind getting the truck sideways wherever he can. Unfortunately, Lockie Fern, as we mentioned, has not been able to take the start. There's a bit of moisture coming on the front of Smith's truck. Not sure what that is. Is it diesel or what is it? But it seems to be coming from the Mac that's out in front at the moment.
Yeah, that last shot that we had through the Victorian Diesel's services onboard camera from Shannon Smith, you could say that his visibility was starting to get affected by some sort of fluid that possibly could have been coming out of Barry Butwell's truck. We saw in race number 1 that he had some dramas with Diesel leaking onto the rear wheels, which caused him to have a couple of spectacular spins off the circuit, so he'll be hoping for no recurrence of those dramas.
We'll just watch him out of this last corner now. Does he get sideways? So it doesn't seem to be affecting him in that sphere at this point, but we'll just keep an eye on that at the moment. Meanwhile, Smith looks like he's under a bit of a challenge from Fern in third spot. He's not letting him get away, is he, at the moment?
If anything, Butwell's been able to extend a bit of a margin in the race lead, and it's Smith who's now starting to feel the pressure from Robbie Fern. Let's check on the progress as well of Brett Dalglish. He's still in behind Marcus Prilwitz. We go on board the Donaldson Filtration Solutions in-car camera, the second of the Max Superliners, which runs the 10-speed road range gearbox, not the semi-automatic transmission that's in a lot of the other trucks.
He's getting a bird's eye view of what's going on up ahead, and they haven't really split it too far, have they? Running 1, 2 and 3. Pruitt's in 4th, of course, and he's got Dalglish coming up on the back of him as we speak.
I was having a chat to Marcus Prilwitz earlier in the weekend, and he said that with the manual gearbox you really only use the top 3 or 4 gears. The lower gears are not really
Lockie,
used for
there's
anything.
been a challenge again with Smith trying to go around the outside of the Mac, the leading Butwell entry. Manages to hold on to it though, so that's sort of coming out of the blue a bit, so I'm starting to think he may be having some sort of issue.
Seems to be blowing a lot of smoke, a lot more than usual, the number 13 Max Superliner, and Shannon Smith right on the tail of Barry Butwell, and he just moves it across to the middle of the track to defend on the run down into turn 1. You could see there a graphic indication that Shannon Smith's Kenworth has a bit more top-end performance compared to the Max Superliner, but where Butwell is stronger is under brake. So this is a graphic demonstration of the strengths and weaknesses of the two trucks.
I've got a funny feeling it looks like he's holding him up at the moment. You can see across the top there's not much room to get around there anyway. Maybe he might try something when they get down towards the fishhook again, where this time it'll be up to Smith to try and get past Butwell.
That's a great drone shot, isn't it, as we go back on board the Victorian Diesel Services in-truck camera with Shannon Smith. That drone shot also showed us a good battle starting to emerge a bit further back as we see that Butwell has run wide on the run into the fishhook, and he gets a love tap, some Morse code on the rear bumper of the Max Superliner, and it's Shannon Smith who fights through on the inside to go back to P1.
Butwell's got dramas, you can see it there because Fern's lining him up down the inside towards turn 10, and that's blowing a lot of smoke out the top of, more so than you normally see, because well, it's a bit of flame there. I think I seen just out of shot, and he's into the pits. Wow, that's big.
What a shame for one of our title contenders. Look at the flames puffing out of that Max Superliner in the background now. So big dramas there for Barry Butwell, and in a weekend where he really needed to try and get some points, especially with one of his main title rivals, Stever Zammit, not on the track today. This is the last thing that he needed at DNF, and you can see that he's having a major sense of humour failure.
Yeah, I don't think he's been real happy about that. Replay coming up from Donaldson. Marcus Pulwich gets some good view of his teammate. As we see, yeah, flames coming out, particularly the right stack on that truck. But I think when we've seen that later shot, it was coming out of both stacks.
And you can see Marcus Prilwitz just glancing off to the side there, looking to see what the dramas might have been for Barry Butwell. But we go back on board the Victorian Diesel Services on board with Shannon Smith. He's not out of the woods just yet because Robbie Fern is mounting a serious challenge. The Volvo has come alive on the final lap of this race and will actually have one last chance to have a crack at the race lead going into the final turn.
A little bit deceptive on that front-on shot, but looks like Smith has done enough to get him to the line. There won't be a lot, although he's going to make a run at him on the inside. This could get pretty close.
Drag race to the line. It will be between the two trucks side by side. A drag race to the line, and it is Shannon Smith who just holds out Robbie Fern. The final margin there, 0.11 of a second. What a finish.
That was extremely tight in the end. I don't know whether Smith buttoned off thinking he had it won, or whether generally he was under pressure.
Anthony Tringali comes through in the International Transstar. Anthony Tringali, that's probably the newest truck in the field, that one. He continues to learn and develop. There are your results. Shannon Smith, your winner, ahead of Robbie Fern. Nothing in it at the finish line. Brett Dalgish gets up to third position from the rear of the field. And then it's Frillwitz ahead of Tringali, and Barry Butwell not making it to the line.
It was, Barry had the lead there. Actually, I come off in the first corner there and get a little bit of ground on Barry, and then he got round me. It was good racing, but he had an issue with his truck, so it seemed to bog out around the corners, and I got him on the last one.
Yeah, it was pretty tight all the way. We were all sort of bunched up. It was half the race was trying not to hit someone, and I got it around clean on that last corner, and a bit of a drag race to the end there, so just didn't quite make it.
Yeah, third place, so I'm happy with that. My first in the main drive. Just got Marcus right on the line. I think I got him, it wouldn't have even been a quarter of a truck, I don't think. So pretty stoked with that. Very happy.
We had just a little bit too much timing in it, and then we broke a return spring on the throttle, so it just jammed full throttle, and I had to drive it on the stopper, and you just couldn't stay out there like that.
A lot of work going on down in the pits to get the trucks ready and back onto the track for race number 3. We'll be back after the break with plenty more action from Wakefield Park, round number 1 of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals.
Well, it's already started to be a very competitive day. It's Saturday. Yesterday was just all over the place for these guys. A lot of work's been done to the trucks, and obviously yesterday was the first day they had the chance to test them. So there's been a lot of good, a lot of not so good, but all in all, it's looking to be a really good series. Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's a decent field. We've lost one truck from a rack getting jammed open on a pump, which caused some head damage. Couldn't be fixed. But the rest of the field's going to make up the numbers, and next race meeting will be even better. Barry's done a lot of work, and it's only a tenth of Stephen, so that's not too bad. It was a half a second off Stephen last race meeting, so it's a tenth. So that's pretty good. Shannon's got a new engine in it, so and he's just there also. So yeah, it's going to look like a really good series. Robbie Fern's truck has a lot of work done to it. Tringali's truck's got a lot of work done to it. So wow, I just can't wait. I can't wait till I sort them all out.
Great to have your company for round 1 of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals from Wakefield Park. This round being presented by High Tech Oils, Gary O'Brien and Lachlan Mansell talking you through all of the action. Plenty of drama in race 2, Gary, especially Barry Butwell. We've heard that he suffered a jammed throttle. Now, that's a scary experience in any type of race vehicle, but especially when you're in a 4+ tonne super truck.
Well, you're just riding on the brake, and apparently the return spring on the throttle cable was the thing that broke, and so he just had full throttle. That was it, and a brake. And he persisted with it as long as he could, and eventually obviously pulled through the pits.
So this race, a full reverse grid based on the finishing positions from race number 2. So it's Anthony Tringali on pole ahead of Marcus Prillwitz, Brett Dalgish, back then to Robbie Fern and Shannon Smith, and Barry Butwell, who was a non-finisher, will still have to start at the rear of the field.
So he's got all the ground to make up in this one, and hopefully the return spring is a good one. Not a big job to fix, but not something you want in the middle of a race.
Getting ourselves set once again for a double file rolling start here at Wakefield Park. Race number 3 of the weekend. Tringali, that International Transstar, and also Marcus Prillwitz, the Road Range gearbox driven Max Superliner, side by side on the run down into turn 1. Decent start from Robbie Fern. He'll sweep around on the outside of Brett Dalgish. There's Barry Butwell already trying to make up some spots, but it's Prillwitz who goes through to take the early lead. Tringali just being overtaken by Robbie Fern on the run up the hill.
Swamp would be a better word for it, I think, because there goes Butwell as well going past him. You might have seen a bit of fluid coming out the front of Fern's truck at turn 2 through that opening sequence. That'd be from the water-cooled front brakes.
Axle fix we steer you straight, bringing us the onboards from Tringali's truck, and he will need to try and steer it straight to try and keep the other trucks behind him at the moment. He's under some pressure from Brett Dalgish, and you can see just a little bit sideways through the fish hook. They really do have to throw it in there.
I think you do when it's cold tyres, start of a race, no matter when. And, you know, we're getting to that time of the year, even though it's a fairly nice day here at Wakefield Park this weekend. Still takes a while to get some warmth into the tyres.
Good start from Barry Butwell. He's made up already multiple positions after starting at the back of the field. Highly motivated to push for a race victory and try and collect some championship points after what's not been a fantastic weekend for him so far.
There's Dalglish making a run on Tringali down into turn 1. And no, Tringali holds him out, or he does at this stage, still holds onto it. This has been the development of this truck. As you said, one of the newest trucks going around in truck racing at the moment, and it's just about cornering and getting that suspension set up right. The truck otherwise is pretty well on par with what the others are doing.
What a side-by-side battle between him and Brett Dalgish up on the curb at turn number 3. And Tringali, you talked about the setup developments that they've made with that international, but also the driving technique as well. Anthony Tringali's just getting more and more confident with every lap that he completes. Hasn't been an easy introduction to racing for him, because prior to coming into this category, he didn't have any previous racing experience in anything else, so he's had to learn in what would have to be one of the toughest racing vehicles going around.
Be like you or I jumping into one, wouldn't it?
Just about. Shannon Smith, who had started this race from down the order after his win in the previous one, not actually making that much progress through the field just yet. He's got a bit of work to do, and the problem for him is that a lot of the drivers who he was battling against in the earlier race have pulled well clear.
Yeah, indeed. Where he is at the moment is not good for overall round result. Even though he did have a win, now he's coming on a bit stronger. Gets down the inside. Does he get it done into turn 1? No. Smith has to resume in 6th position at the moment. You see the rival there running a little bit wide out of turn 2. Now he gets a run up the inside. He's on the wrong side of the track unless he can get alongside. Unfortunately, he's not able to, so it's Tringali that holds onto that spot.
This is probably the most impressive performance that we've seen so far from Anthony Tringali since he came into Super Truck Racing. He is really making Shannon Smith work for this position. Here's the drone cam showing them as they come down into the fish hook. Marcus Prilwitz, your leader, ahead of Robbie Fern. Back to Barry Butwell, then Brett Dalgish, and then the battle for positions 5 and 6 between Anthony Tringali and Shannon Smith.
Robbie Fern currently chasing the race leader Prilwitz at the moment, and Prilwitz is doing a remarkably good job, so I don't think he's won a race as such. Oh, and we've just seen Smith pirouette, which looks like turn 9. That's not good, and it doesn't improve his position.
It'll be interesting to see how that started. Obviously, he was involved in that battle with Tringali. It could have been just a little bit of frustration creeping in there for our race number 2 winner, but Shannon Smith now a long, long way behind the field. Oh, and more problems. What a nightmare weekend this is turning into for Barry Butwell.
Yeah, the number 13 Mac Superliner is slowly making its way around at the moment. Very frustrated driver there by the look of it as well. Let's hope this is just another small 20-cent part that needs repair. Hate to think that he'd have any major dramas. We get a replay now, and you might be right here, Lockie. There's Smith making a move on Tringali at turn 9. And was there a touch? I'm not so sure.
Bit hard to pick up there from the all-freight replay to see if there was actually contact between those two trucks. If there was, it's only very light. The onboard for Victorian Diesel Services might give us a better angle. No, I don't think there was any contact at all. I think it was just a case of Shannon Smith clipping that curb on the inside of turn 9 and that unsettling his truck and carting it into a spin.
1 minute there, Anthony Trigali knows that he's got Shannon Smith all over the back of him, looks out the window and thinks, wow, that's worked out well.
Here is Marcus Prilwitz, our race leader, just ahead of Robbie Fern. Robbie Fern's son, Lachlan Fern, was supposed to be out there racing in an Isuzu light truck as well, but unfortunately he blew an engine in Saturday's opening race.
Yeah, big way too. It just wasn't a small meltdown. Meanwhile, Marcus Prilwitz continues to lead, and it's a solid lead as well.
He's just managing the gap at the moment, isn't he? Back to Robbie Fern, not seriously being challenged for the race lead. That's a great shot at the moment. Donaldson Filtration Solutions on truck camera. And you'll notice that it's got the two drivers' names, Prilwitz and Butwell, on the windscreen, and that's because earlier in the weekend they had the teams' championship races where the drivers can actually swap trucks, or in some cases they'll throw different drivers behind the wheel.
Yeah, and those two races ran yesterday, and Stever Zammit won the first, qualified fastest. Shannon Smith won the first one, and actually Lockie Fern got through to win the second, but then unfortunately had major dramas.
And that was in the first of the Drivers' Championship races. Here's Brett Dalgish, who's putting in a stout performance aboard the number one Kenworth.
We just seen in the background there, or in the foreground, I guess you'd say, the Butwell going back to the pits. So more dramas for that entry, and obviously get back now, try and get it fixed and get out for the last.
Oh, a big sideways moment for Robbie Fern on the exit of turn number 2 as they head into the final lap.
He's actually making up some ground here on the last lap, Rocky.
He's pushing hard, and it's not unheard of to see the last corner, last lap passing manoeuvres in super truck racing. If he can get a good run down the hill and a good exit out of the fishhook to position himself for turn number 10, could have a sniff of an opportunity. Not quite sure he's going to get close enough though.
Yeah, I guess when you look from the drone shot, a marvellous shot from over the top, it doesn't look quite as close as it does when you're looking out the front of your vehicle, because obviously you're chasing a carrot.
So Marcus Prilwitz, the second of the Max Superliners, where the other one faltered with mechanical problems. This has been a fine drive from Marcus Prilwitz in the 10-speed manual Max Superliner, and he's going to come through and pick up victory in race number 3 of the weekend for the Australian Super Truck Nationals here at Wakefield Park. Robbie Fern will finish up in second position, and then a bit of a gap back to the third place finisher, which will be Brett Dalgish. And for someone who's just won a super truck racing, looks pretty relaxed in the cockpit. Oh, another spin, Shannon Smith. Final corner, turn number 10. He's not going to be relaxed.
Well, there's going to be two very frustrated drivers back in the pits after this one, no doubt.
Shannon Smith will be disappointed with himself. A couple of mistakes in that race costing him some positions. He will get to the checkered flag in position number 5. Loses a few points in terms of the overall point situation for the round as well. Let's check out what happened on the off-road replay. And once again, done it all on his own.
Yep. Just trying a little bit too hard towards the end of the race, and I don't think he was going to make up a position there, but still finishes without losing a place. That's the good news.
Because the diesel engines in these super trucks punch out so much low-end torque, you do have to be a bit judicious with the throttle on the exit of the low-speed corners. Shannon Smith being caught out there. So confirmation of your final results. Marcus Prilwitz, your winner, ahead of Robbie Fern. Brett Dalgish in third, then Anthony Trigali in fourth. Shannon Smith finishing up in fifth position. Barry Butwell, unfortunately, another DNF for him. Let's catch up with the drivers and find out their thoughts on the race.
Yeah, it was a good win. It's the first win for the truck in the championship series ever. So yeah, I'm really happy with the result. Obviously, yeah. Most I had to worry about really was Rob, and the only Rob's got it all over me on the straight, so I had to be clean through every corner. I had to come out tidy, which I didn't always. That was my main concentration was to go in fast, late, and come out tidy. And it seemed to work, I suppose.
I'm getting up there. I'm inches away from it, so yeah. Look, I'm going to give it a good go. They're a handful all the time. You're hanging on to it the whole time, and they're drifting, and you're trying to get power on, and the truck's wanting to take off sideways, and it's a fair balancing act.
Well, I was at the start. I was first off to start off with. Then I got a bit scared going around the corner because everyone always gets into a bingle and stuff. So I just I slowed down a little bit, but turns out everyone got in front of me. And I was coming out fourth, or fourth or fifth, I'm pretty sure. And there was a truck behind me, but I didn't want to let him go through, so I just tried to hold my ground, and he kept spinning out. Just held it, and then came fourth because one of the trucks, I think, blew something, and the other one kept spinning out. So I just tried to stay as much as I could. Tried to gain as much position as I could, but I could only stay fourth position. But I reckon it went pretty good considering.
The race, I started at the back and probably left my run a little bit late there to start chasing the guys down, and Tringali did a good job blocking me out, and sort of oversteered on the corner and spun out, and that was the end of it.
Still got one race to go in the Super Trucks here at Wakefield Park, and that is the feature race of the weekend, the 10-lap Super Prix. The round win still very much up for grabs. We'll be back with all of the action from that one after the break.
Well, first of all, you've got to fix all the issues that come up, but basically if there's no issues, you've got to keep checking, make sure the brakes are okay, the tyre pressures are okay, just a general check over most of the time, depending on what the driver actually wants the truck to do. He usually puts a lot of input into that, and then we just go ahead and change stabiliser bars, tyre pressures, shock absorbers, whatever it takes really. But maintenance-wise, if you keep up to it, not that much during the race meeting.
They come in really, really red, and just trying to keep stop the disc from cracking is the big thing. So, like sometimes we could go through 3 sets of discs in a meet. This weekend, touch wood, we haven't gone through a set yet. So, change the set of pads on the front, check the rears. This truck runs drum on the back, drum brakes. Usually we can get a meet out of them, but we always carry spares. But done a set of pads in this so far, but touch wood, no disc change so far. So, but we might have to still do one today.
Well, it depends on how motivated we are. Like sometimes we kind of leave things till the last minute, and it's a mad rush. But otherwise, it's a slow and steady work. We're working on it every Saturday, every Sunday near on back in Melbourne. And it's just a constant. The truck's not that old. It's about been racing for 6 years or 7 years. So we're still developing certain things, and you break one thing, you fix it, and then you find the next weak point, it breaks, so you fix that, and sometimes you might see a weak point and you fix it before it breaks, but it's just a matter of, keep on going and hope, cross your fingers that it doesn't break on race day.
Well, the engine's running at high RPM and all that type of stuff, so that's you've got to maintain that. But I suppose when you look at it, when they have a bit of a biff and barge and all that type of stuff, you got body wear, but then tyres is another thing too as far as that goes. There's a lot of weight tracking around on the track, so it's a bit of everything type of thing. There's no one thing, like I says, it does become expensive, I suppose, when you they start hitting each other and everything else like that. But all in all, it's not too bad. I suppose if you couldn't afford it, you wouldn't be in the sport, I suppose.
This is the opening round of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals, and we are gearing up for the final race of the weekend, the 10-lap Super Prix. Grid positions for this race will be determined based on a reverse of the qualifying order. So once again, we have a mixed grid, and Gary, mixed grids usually mean plenty of overtaking.
It certainly does, Lockie, and we'll see Dalglish coming off the back, mainly because he didn't qualify. Stever Zammit qualified that truck, and unfortunately Steve had commitments. It meant he wasn't going to be here today, so the co-driver has stepped in for the previous couple of races. He's in for this one, he's off the back, and there'll be plenty of action. But I think we're missing Barry Butwell as well. I believe that had a harmonic balancer failure in that last race, and unfortunately he's out for the rest of the weekend.
What a shocker of a weekend it's been for last year's title runner-up. A lot of hard work to do back at the Max Superliner team to try and get that truck resurrected and running reliably for the next round of Winter Motor Raceway on the 6th and 7th of July. Good news is that we do still have some healthy trucks that are out there on the racetrack, and we're getting set for double file rolling start in this, the final race of the weekend, the longest race of the weekend. It's feature race time. It's the 10 lap Super Prix for the Super Trucks here at Wakefield Park.
Yeah, pretty even start across the board there as we see them go down to turn 1. Fern on the outside of Prewitz. Looks like already that Smith's trying to make an inside move on the pair of them as they go down to turn 2.
Shannon Smith's been fast this weekend, but he made a couple of mistakes in the previous race, and look at him drifting it sideways through turn number 2. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead is on between Prillwitz and Fern. Side by side, they head up into turn number 3, and it's Prillwitz who holds on in the top spot as they head over the top of the hill. That's where the nimble handling of Prillwitz's Max Superline will give him the advantage.
You think he might have the bit between his teeth after winning the previous race? He wants to go on and get a double for the weekend. What a great start to the season that would be for him.
And it was these two drivers, Prillwitz and Fern, who were battling it out for the lead and for the win in the previous race. Meanwhile, there is Anthony Tringali having perhaps his most competitive outing to date in the International Transtar. He's just ahead of Brett Dalgish at the moment. Shannon Smith's pulled away from those two and has his sights set on the two leaders, Prillwitz and Fern.
Yeah, I think Smith lost a little bit of ground out of turn 2 on the opening lap. He had a sideways run up the hill, but here we have now Dalglish moving down the inside of Tringali at turn 10, so he moves up one spot. That takes him up to 4th.
Anthony Tringali thinking about doing the switchback there, took the slightly narrower line on the exit, and you can see how hard he's working there, shifting up through the gears with that 10-speed Road Ranger gearbox, but just doesn't quite have the straight line speed to be up behind Brett Dalgish when they get down to turn 2.
Here we have Fern looking for a way past Prillwitz now. He's on the wrong side of the road as they get to turn 3. If he can hang it out there, he's a good chance of getting the inside run to 4. He doesn't do so, so that means that Prillwitz again holds on and gets to where would be the forte for his Max Superliner across the top of the hill.
He didn't do it, but he was very close there, Robbie Fern. He went side by side with Marcus Prillwitz heading into turn 3, just got run out of road on the exit. Prillwitz is having to drive this Max Superliner a bit defensively to make sure that the Volvo of Robbie Fern doesn't have a way of getting through.
Looking at the Donaldson on board, we might just see a little bit of a trucking behind him there at this stage. He's very close to him as we see him come down to turn 10.
And Shannon Smith in 3rd position is catching the two race leaders, so shortly it's going to be a 3-way contest for the lead between the 3 of them. And Marcus Prillwitz starting to drive defensively, moves it to the inside of the track heading down the main straight. But look at that. Robbie Fern with the performance advantage just blasts past, and he will go through to take the lead in the Volvo as they head across the start-finish line.
Yeah, can't substitute power down the straight, can you? And a good run out of turn 10 sort of set him up for a good run down into turn 1. You've got to get it done by 1, because that's really just a kink in the road. It's not so much a corner as such.
Having a look through the Donaldson onboard out of the windscreen of Marcus Prillwitz's Max Superliner, and you can see once again across the top of the circuit, the more nimble handling allows Prillwitz to close back in on the tail of Robbie Fern. Can he fight back? Can he challenge? Are there any overtaking opportunities where Prillwitz can recapture the lead?
Looks like we had a bit of a brake lock up from someone down, might be Prillwitz actually, into the fishhook. And that would be one spot where he would be pretty good through, although now he's got real pressure on him from Shannon Smith.
Shannon Smith gets a good run through turn number 9, looks to the inside, and in the end this is probably going to be a fairly easy passing manoeuvre. No, it's not. Prillwitz brakes later. How good was the braking performance of that Max Superliner, and manages to hold station on the outside?
Hasn't got the straight line performance to stay with the Kenworth down the straight though, and Smith does the move, gets past. Now he'll aim to try and get to Fern before the end of this race.
4 marks to Marcus Prillwitz though for fighting gallantly. He has made the other drivers work very hard every time they've tried to overtake him.
Here's a good look from the All Freight replay. out of the front of Prilwitz's Mac, and just see him zoom past.
So that was on the previous lap where Robbie Fern took the position. Just a bit more acceleration out of the Volvo. Of course, these super trucks do run restricted top speeds. That's more for safety than anything, Gary.
Yes, it is, and they have a tachograph which gets downloaded after each race to make sure no one's exceeded 160 kilometres an hour. Not that I think you get...
Oh! Contact between Marcus Prilwitz and Shannon Smith. That's on the exit of the Fishhook. It looks like Shannon Smith got a bit of a slower run out of the corner compared to Prilwitz, and it was a fairly hefty contact between the two trucks, which has sent Shannon Smith spiralling off to the outside of the track.
He's had to have a think about it before he come back on too. He'd be checking for damage, no doubt, make sure all 4 or 6 wheels in this case are pointing in the same direction, and he can get back underway again.
And that has cost Shannon Smith a couple of positions, because not only has Prilwitz gone through, but Brett Dalgish has moved up into 3rd spot as well.
Yeah, albeit fairly distant way back there to Tringali. I think actually Tringali's got past him as well.
On board with Brett Dalgish, who's taken full advantage of that Contratop to now have a serious chance of challenging Marcus Prilwitz for 2nd position.
This will be, again, the advantage of the Kenworth driver in a straight line, you would think, although he got a bit twisted and out of sorts through that set of corners. Now he can get towards the straights. Wakefield Park doesn't have a great deal of long straights, but they can work in favour of times. Replay coming up from Paul Freight. And we can see, yeah, definite touch there, and that's a fairly big hit in the end.
And I'll tell you what, Gary, that incident also has implications in terms of how things are going to finish for the round. Because with Shannon Smith losing those positions, and with Robbie Fern leading the race, right now, Robbie Fern is actually on target, not only to win the race, but also to win the round, which would be his first overall round victory in the Australian Super Truck Championship.
Been a series of firsts. Prilwitz getting through for a win. Now this likely scenario popping up. Who's to know? Just looking out from the axle fix. On board of Anthony Tringali, just watching as one of the trucks goes past him there. That would be Smith getting that spot back after his lose.
So after spending all of the previous race stuck behind the International, Shannon Smith's managed to get past Anthony Tringali a lot more easily this time around.
Oh, he's probably a bit more fired up this time around as well. This is very much a work in progress from the Tringali team. Obviously that truck is getting better and better, and as you said earlier, some of his best performances we've seen out of him have been at this meeting.
So what's going to happen in this battle for 2nd position? Prilwitz holds it at the moment, but Brett Dalgish is coming. Now, Brett Dalgish is probably not quite as familiar with that truck or as fast as what Stever Zammit is, but he still knows how to steer it okay, and he will do his very best to try and get past Prilwitz. Here they come down the straight. Prilwitz once again taking that defensive inside line that we've seen him hold on a couple of previous laps, and he will manage to keep the Kenworth at bay for the time being.
Love this shot out of the front of the Mac, looking backwards. And sometimes you do see some of his rivals popping in and out of frame as they look for a way to get past him.
You can also see Marcus just tilting his head there depending on what corner he's going around at the time.
Well, that way we know, don't we then? Quite close in this battle at the moment. And the Coburg Truck Parts Max Superliner holds position still. Just seems to be better everywhere but in a straight line. Would you not agree?
And Marcus Prilwitz has driven it really well right throughout the weekend too. And talking about points for the round, well, Marcus Prilwitz is well and truly on target to stand on the podium with positions as they are at the moment.
Now we see Grau Gleish zeroing in on the back of Prilwitz down into what will bring him back onto the main straight. Now this is where everyone else has managed to get past the Mac, and we can see Dalglish going for an outside move down past the start finish line. He's carrying a lot more momentum. Can he hold it to get through in turn 1? I don't think he can.
And Prilwitz, we know that the strength of the Max Superliner has been under brake, so provided Dalglish doesn't get completely past him by the time they get to turn 2, Prilwitz should be able to hold on. It's going to get interesting heading up the hill though. Prilwitz moves it across to the middle of the track and just manages to keep Dalglish behind through turn number 3. This has turned into a ripper battle for positions 2 and 3.
And he's not doing anything untoward either. This is all within racing regulations that you can move across the track. You're only allowed to do it once. And there across the top of the track, as we've seen in the past, he just gets that little bit of impetus to pull away and sets himself up for a reasonable run onto the 2 straights. The one he's coming up onto now, and a start-finish straight where he can maybe just hold on.
The key thing is that Marcus Prilwitz has to be really fast and precise around the top part of the circuit where his truck is stronger, because he needs to make sure that he builds up enough of a margin over Brett Dalglish so that Brett Dalglish is not close enough just to blast past him when they get to this part of the track here, which is the main straight, which is where Dalglish's truck is stronger.
Now we see whether we'll see that dark blue Kenworth pull out of the slipstream at some stage. Not quite close enough that time, and actually gets a bit of axle tramp as he goes down through turn 1, so he's had to get on the anchors a little bit earlier. There we see Brett Dalglish looking down at something, whether he's had a brake issue just into that corner, a bit of a bias issue perhaps.
He's checking the readings on all of the gauges there by the look of things. These trucks with their sophisticated brake systems, they do have a lot more gauges, turbo boost as well, as another one drivers will be keeping their eyes on.
As you can see, you're only seeing part of them there. I believe there'll be some more down lower. Quite a very much a race spec cockpit in these trucks.
And so you'll see there that Brett Dalglish's truck has got an automatic transmission. They do still manually select the gears, but it is for all intents and purposes an automatic or a semi-automatic gearbox. And the advantage there is that you don't lose any momentum when you shift up through the gears, because you don't have to come off the throttle like you would with the manual gearbox.
Yeah, the automatic does rob a little bit of engine horsepower. That's the only downside. But now we see Dalglish going for an outside run again, but as we've seen before, not quite close enough. In the meantime, here's our race leader, Robbie Fern, setting himself up not only to win the race, but to take the round.
And it's been an exemplary performance as well. After taking the lead from Marcus Prilwitz very early on in the race, he hasn't put a foot wrong. He's put his head down, he's punched out fast and consistent laps. And not only is he going to win the race and the round, but he's going to do it in fine style as well. He has built a significant margin over the rest of the field.
There we see the Coburg Trucks parts on board, watching him at work. One of the few left-hand drive trucks that we see in the championship as well.
And this is a truck that's had plenty of previous success in the Australian Super Truck Championship in the hands of John Falk. Built in Sweden, manufactured by Volvo. And here he comes out of turn number 10, the last corner. A stunning performance from the Volvo driver, Robbie Fern. He is going to take his first race win and his first round win in the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals.
Hi-Tech Oils, obviously the sponsor of this, the opening round, along with Donaldson Filtration, Coburg Truck Parts, Lycon Lifting Equipment, and we see a great run at the end of the race, and Dalglish just manages to get home ahead of Prilwitz.
Less than a tenth of a second, 0.09 of a second. The margin between second and third at the finish line, with Brett Dalglish just using the extra power to out-drag Prilwitz to the line. And here comes Anthony Tringali home in 5th position, just behind Shannon Smith. Smith will finish second overall for the round, ahead of Prilwitz. So it'll be Fern, Smith and Prilwitz who will be your top 3 overall finishers for round number 1. Confirmation of the race results. Robbie Fern gets his first race win and does it in style, taking victory by more than 15 seconds ahead of Brett Dalglish, and then Prilwitz, Smith and Tringali rounding out your finishers as we head back down to the pits to catch up with our drivers after the final race.
Yeah, I stuck to my first plan. That was get out in front of everyone and dodge all the carnage and get out in front and stay in front.
Yeah, started off the back. Got a quick jump on Anthony Tringali and then just slowly started making my way through the field. And just got Marcus on the line to take home second, so I'm absolutely thrilled with that.
I ran out of brakes in the last lap and a half, and I just came onto the straight just a little bit too slow. And that's all that was.
Let's check out the points after round number 1, and only 2 points in it at the top of the standings between Robbie Fern and Shannon Smith. And some of the big news to come out of that round, a few of the major players in the title left with a lot of work to do. Stever Zammit and Barry Butwell, they have given their rivals a big head start. They will bounce back though as the season progresses. The next round of the Australian Super Truck Nationals will be held at Winton Motor Raceway on the 6th and 7th of July. We're expecting to see some familiar faces returning to the category that weekend as well. Thank you for your company here at Wakefield Park, the nation's spectator track for round number 1, the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals, presented by High Tech Oils. On behalf of Gary O'Brien, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time. Bye for now.